Boys, what is good? It's Herm, and I'm here today to talk about NBA free agency, which is going to be coming up, I believe, right at the start of July. And I'm going to break down my top 20 free agents of this summer. Nice mix of really good, kind of all-star level players already, and some nice young guys entering restricted free agency that I think creates a cool balance in this year's class. But before we get into it, think about subscribing. It's free, it's easy. If you don't like the content, you can always unsubscribe later, but we're about at 1K. We're going to hit 1K within the next couple days, so I really appreciate the support, and that means a lot to me. But without further ado, let's get into it. So first, I wanted to talk about teams with the most cap space. Realistically, these 5 teams can get to max slot space. So the Orlando Magic have the first most with 27.5. Pistons are right there. Pacers with almost 26, Spurs with 23, Blazers with 22. The Blazers can also very easily get more by non-guaranteeing Josh Hart's contract is not guaranteed for next season. So if they don't accept that, don't pick that up. That frees them up a lot of space. They could renounce guys like Nurkic, Simons, whoever. So the Blazers could get a lot more than they're currently projected. And these are the teams with max slot space. Obviously, not the the ideal destinations, the star cities you usually think of. So there might be a lot of sign-in trades this summer. And all these projections are via Spotrac. So let's start off with my honorable mentions. I have 6 guys here that didn't quite make my top 20, but I still think are worth mentioning. Joe Ingles coming off a injury that ended his season. He didn't play since the first month of the year, but is a knockdown shooter. It's a skill that a lot of teams want, a lot of teams need, so I could see him getting on with the team. Andre Drummond is a guy that kind of upped his value a little bit down the stretch with the Nets, looked really solid for them. One of the best rebounders we've seen in this modern era, so he's going to get some interest, and he might have earned himself a bigger contract than some people expected. Ricky Rubio coming off an injury as well, but just is a really solid, steady point guard that can help a young team. We saw him on the Cavs last year, was super helpful for them before he went down. Kyle Anderson, a nice kind of point forward kind of player who can play at his own pace and play some defense. JaVale McGee, one of the better reserve centers you can have in the league, but also can play some starter minutes, can rebound, can protect the rim, can score a little bit on the inside, so not a bad piece there. And then Gary Harris, who kind of had a down year in Orlando, didn't really get going towards the end of this until the end of the season, but is a guy, who was once thought of as a very good defensive player, can shoot the ball a little bit, so 3-and-D guys have some value, and I think he'll get at least a mid-level kind of contract. All right, at number 20, I have Nic Claxton right now of the Brooklyn Nets. So this year averaged 9 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist on 67 from the field, 58 from the line. We saw it down the playoffs. The free throw shooting is really bad. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest knocks against him, and one of the reasons he's not higher on my list, because he's just such a liability at the free throw line. He really needs to work on it. It did cost them a game in the playoffs, which was really tough. But 23 years old, young player, he has a lot of time. He's a restricted free agent and is an old school big man. He's not going to go out. He's not going to space the floor for you, but he'll rebound. He's pretty versatile defensively. He can really guard the 3 through 5. So I like that for him. I think right now he's more of a rotational piece than a starting center in the league, but he's young, so he has some potential. I think he's going to get a mid-level exception type deal, maybe $5 million a year, 7, somewhere in that range. He's currently on the Nets, but I like the potential of a team like the Mavs who need more of a traditional center. They have Kleba, but he gets kind of bullied defensively at times, so I think Claxton would be a good fit there. At number 19, I have center Montrezl Harrell. Some people have him higher on their list. I saw a Utility Sports list yesterday. They had him in their top 15, but he's just not quite there for me. He's just not, because you know what he is, and you know what he's going to give you. He's going to come in, he's going to be a hustle offensive player off the bench. High effort rim runner is what I categorized him as. He's going to go out there, he's going to score at the rim. He's not going to shoot, really. That's just not his thing, but he's going to get out in transition, and at times he's a liability defensively. He's not the best defensive player out there. So if you want a guy to come in, give you a little scoring punch off the bench, I think Montrez is your guy, but he shouldn't be thought of as a starting center. I don't think is just not what he's going to be. At at 28 years old, he doesn't really have a lot of potential to grow. I think he just kind of is what he is. Maybe he can give you better numbers than this. I think he could put up something like 15 and 8. I think he could do that, but I don't see him as a long-term starting center. The Raptors really need some center depth, so I think getting him there, maybe play behind Siakam, or they could try to start him, but again, I don't love that, but I think that's a good fit. At number 18, I have point guard Tyus Jones of the Memphis Grizzlies. I think he priced himself out of what the Grizzlies are going to do. I think he's restricted, but I just don't think they're going to match what he's going to get, because when Ja was out, Tyus Jones was really solid, whether it be in the playoffs or the regular season. He was really steady, all year long. You know what he's going to give you. He's going to be able to shoot a little bit. He's going to pass. He feels like a lesser version of like how Chris Paul plays. I picture the way they play very similarly, but he's just not like at that level. But I think the way they play is similar. Can shoot pretty well, 45 from the field, 39 from three is very good, 82 from the line. He doesn't turn the ball over very much. He's very efficient offensively and is a good initiator of an offense. So I think he could be an okay starter for a team if they wanted to do that, but I think he'd be a really solid backup point guard if a team was more interested in that kind of role. I think he's going to make somewhere from 10 to 12 million. I think he made himself a decent amount of money this year, and I think the Bucks are a good fit for him, just because I'd like to see him on a contender where he can come in and be really solid as their backup point guard, a team that relies a lot on backup point guards. You know, we've seen it in the past. They like to play 2 point guard systems as well as having good backup point guards, but George Hill just isn't what he used to be, so I think getting Tyus Jones off the bench for Milwaukee would be really great for them in running their second unit. At 17, I have TJ Warren. I thought about putting him higher, but we just haven't seen him play in like 2 years. The last year he played, he was putting up 20 points per game, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, on 40% from 3, 54 from the field, 82 from the line. It's really solid. He's an efficient scorer. He's a high-volume scorer. Has been just about a 20-point-per-game guy pretty much his whole career. He was a scorer in college. He's just always been kind of a bucket. And the last time we really saw him was in the bubble, and he was playing out of his mind, dropping 50 pieces. I don't think he's going to come back and do that, but he's a volume scorer. He's not a bad defender either. I think he's a plus on that end, but it's just been so long since we've seen him play. It's been practically 2 years. I think he played a little at the start of the season in 2021, but it's rough, man. I don't think he's going to end up getting, as much as he would have wanted, but I think because he's relatively a household name at this point, I think he'll still earn somewhere from 10 to 15. Maybe you see someone take like a short contract, 2-year 30, 2-year 25, something like that. But the Pacers are where he's currently at. I don't think they really have any interest in bringing him back. I just don't see him as a great fit with where they are right now with their team, but I think the Bulls would be a really solid fit. If Zach LaVine really leaves, they could have a lineup something like Lonzo, DeMar, TJ Warren, Patrick Williams, and Nikola Vucevic. Gives them a little more defensive help as well as some scoring punch to try to replace Zach. So I think he'd be a good fit on their team on the wing. Even if they bring back Zach, I think TJ Warren provides good depth there. At number 16, I have center Mo Bamba, who quietly had a good year this year. A lot of people don't really watch Orlando, so they don't really know. Was widely considered a bust. Just was really struggled his first couple of years in the league, but put up 11 points this year, 8 rebounds, which are solid stats. If you have that as backup center, you're very happy with those numbers. 38% from 3, which is really, really solid for a center. He's going to stretch the floor a little bit, which you like to see. He's kind of a modern big man, 24 years old. He can space the floor. He can block shots. He's really good at reading where the shot's going to go and being able to get to it. The length really helps with that too, obviously. I think at this point he could be an okay starter. I think you could start him at year 5 in the way that he rebounds and can shoot the ball. I think you'd be happy with that, but I think he'd be a really good backup center. The Magic are a team that he's on right now, but I think the Timberwolves, this might be a weird fit to some people, but I think the Timberwolves would be a fantastic fit. People have talked about how Cat doesn't really have it defensively to play the center position. It's been rumored forever that maybe they're going to move him to play like a power forward role, and if they put Mo Bamba at center, who can protect the rim really well actually, the spacing on offense would be phenomenal. Anthony Edwards would have driving lanes whenever he wanted, and I think the versatility of a front court with Mo Bamba and Towns would be super fun to watch. I think it'd be a really interesting fit. Getting to the top 15 now, I have shooting guard Malik Monk, currently of the LA Lakers. Had one of his best years this year, was pretty good the year before too, has really turned his career around, was another guy that people thought of as a bust, but the last 2 years have been really solid efficiency-wise. 47 from the field, 39 from 3, 80% from the free throw line. Really solid numbers all around. And 14 points per game this year at times looked like the Lakers' third best player, especially with Rush struggling a lot. Malik Monk came in and took on some of that scoring punch, and he was fine doing that. 24 years old, he's still a very young player in this league, and I think he made himself some decent money. I believe he took on a minimum contract with the Lakers this year, but he will not have to take that again. There's going to be a decent amount of interest in him because he's a shooter. Score first guard. You know, he's not going to get a ton of assists. He's looking to get his own shot more than anything else. And he can space the floor. He's a very good shooter. So I think he can be a quality starter in the league right now. That's what I consider him as. I don't think he needs to be a backup. I think he can be a really quality starter. And I think he's going to make somewhere 10 to 12. Maybe a team even offers him $15 million. Like he's going to get a bag just because of the shooting ability. Like that's one of those skills that teams overpay for often. Just look at Duncan Robinson's contract. Bro doesn't deserve that. But Malik Monk, you can play him in the playoffs. It's not going to be like Duncan Robinson where they can't even play him. He's getting DNPs in the playoffs making this money. Malik Monk isn't a slouch defensively. He's not a great defensive player, but he can still be on the floor. And I think the Cavs would be a really good fit because, like I said, he's not the best defensive player, and they're really good defensively. So it's not a huge concern to me going there, but they're one of the teams more than anything that needs shooting. They need shooting really badly, and to get Malik Monk out there next to Garland, I think provides you a very high-quality backcourt for the next few years. All right, at 14, I have guard Gary Payton II, slotting right above Monk, not because he's a better offensive player, but because he's really elite defensively. Excuse me. I know he's injured, and I know he might miss a pretty good amount of next year, but I love GP2, man. 7 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist. Nothing flashy. 36% from 3 isn't bad. 29 years old. He's a little older than a lot of people would expect him to be just because he feels like he's new to the NBA scene, but it took him a while to get there. He's a super springy athlete. You'll see him throw down poster dunks all the time and is an elite defender. Like the Warriors in the playoffs before he went down, he's getting the assignments. You're going to put GP2 on the other team's best player because he's going to go out there, he's going to give it his all, and he's going to do a good job at it. So I think he can make $10 to $12 million a year. I think the teams really respect what he did defensively. There are going to be some concerns about his injuries, but I think honestly he should stay with the Warriors. I think he's a great fit there, really improved in their system, and I think that they're a good environment to rehab from injuries, and I think GP2 can stay there and do that. At 13, I have center Mitchell Robinson, currently of the New York Knicks. Averaged 9-1 this year on 76% from the field. Is one of the most efficient offensive players we've ever seen in league history. Most of that is because all his shots come within 5 feet, basically. But either way, the efficiency is unbelievable. He's phenomenal around the rim. He's going to make just about everything. So he's one of those guys that you love to have because he gives you second chance points and he takes advantage of them. So I think he's a really quality player. I think you can start him on almost any team. I think he's going to get somewhere around $15 million just because he's young. He has potential to get even better. If he can add a little mid-range shot to his game, I think that would be really, really good because then you're getting into the territory of like Bam Adebayo skills, which I would really love to see. So if he could even get like a 10 to 12 footer, I think that'd be huge for his game, and I think teams will overpay a little bit on the upside here. And I think a good fit again is the Mavs because they need a center. Mitchell Robinson, protect the rim, finish inside. Would be a good pick and roll partner with Luka. He can catch lobs, so I think he'd be a good fit on that Mavs team and fill a need for them. At number 12, I have power forward / center Marvin Bagley III, a guy that for the Kings this year, they were refusing to play him. I don't know why, because he clearly had potential, and I have his stats here just from Detroit. He put up 15 points per game this year, 7 rebounds on 56 from the field, 23 from 3 is pretty bad, and the line shooting is bad as well. But his ability to score from the mid-range, he's a good face-up player. He's not the best defender in the world. He's more offense-oriented than he is defense. But you get him out there, he's going to rebound, he's going to put up points. Like his per 36 numbers in Sacramento were always really, really good, and people said, oh, that doesn't matter. But you get him in Detroit, he plays more minutes, he did really well. I think he's a good fit next to Cade Cunningham. I think he's going to make somewhere from $12 to $15 million on his contract. That's just how NBA is right now. And I think the Pistons should keep him. I think he's a good fit next to Cade. I really do like it. And I think, this is a place that allows him to play and allows him to be himself out there, and I think that's the best fit going forward. I just really like his fit on this team, and I'm really impressed with how he's turned his career around, because going between, guys like Ayton, Luka was in there, Trae Young, Jaren Jackson Jr., a lot of people are quick to label Marvin Bagley a huge mistake, a big bust, which he was a mistake, but I don't know if he's necessarily a bust for his career yet. We'll see in Detroit this year. Hopefully he can continue to turn it around. At number 11, I have center Jusuf Nurkic, currently of the Blazers. If I was a betting man, I would put a pretty decent amount that he's not on the Blazers team next year. It just feels like it's not going to happen. But didn't have a bad year this year, coming back off an injury. Put up 15 points per game, 11 rebounds. He's not the best three-point shooter, but he can space the floor a little bit. He's not afraid to shoot it here and there. 28 years old, you know what he is. He's going to rebound. He's going to hit a little mid-range. He's a really good pick-and-roll player. You get him in the pick-and-roll, it's really solid. I have him labeled as his type is a double-double machine. He's going to get double-doubles left and right. He's not going to put up 20 points a night or anything, but he's going to get rebounds, and he's going to put up somewhere from like 13 to 16 points, somewhere in that range. But I think he's a quality starter. He can start on most teams in this league. He's a really good pick-and-roll partner, which I like for a lot of offenses. Need good pick-and-roll, good screen setters. So I like that fit there. I think 15 to 18 million is probably what he's going to make annually. I think he's a well-known quality center, so I think he's going to get a decent level contract like that. And I think a good fit, honestly, is the Phoenix Suns, because realistically, I don't know if they'll be able to keep Ayton, and getting Nurkic in there, a guy who can be good in the pick and roll with both Chris Paul and Devin Booker, rebound, score a little bit, is maybe a little more versatile, spacing wise than Ayton is. So I like the idea of getting Nurkic in there. I think he's a good replacement. If you're going to lose Ayton, I think Nurkic is a good find. At number 10, I have shooting guard Collin Sexton of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Didn't play really at all this year because of a meniscus tear. And, the year before, he was putting up 24 points per game, 3 rebounds, 4 assists on decent efficiency. Honestly, I thought his efficiency would be much worse, but 37% from 3 isn't really bad at all. Only 23 years old, restricted free agent. He's really a score-first guard. I don't know if he'll be a point guard long-term. At one point, he was considered a point guard, but I think realistically, he's probably going to be a 2 guard for just about all of his career, just because he's such a score-first guy. But I think there's going to be some concerns. Did miss most of last season because of that meniscus tear. I don't know what his current level is. He's one of those guys where it's unknown what level he's going to be at when he comes back. But I think a team will take a shot, whether it's like a 2-year 30, like a 3-year 45. I think a team will offer him a decent level contract, but unfortunately it's going to be less than he would have gotten if he was healthy and not injured. Currently, he's with the Cavs, but I think the Pistons is a really good fit. I love the idea of an explosive attacking guard next to Cade Cunningham, just because it feels like a nice contrast, a nice yin and yang type thing there. Because Cade, you know what he is? He's slow, he's methodical, but Sexton is fast and aggressive, and I like those two guys next to each other. I think it'd be an interesting fit. At number 9, I have shooting guard Victor Oladipo. If you were watching the Heat-Celtics game last night, this dude was a monster, bro. Victor Oladipo is getting back. In a very limited sample size this year, putting up 12 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, on 42% from 30, 48 from the field. I don't think his efficiency is going to stay quite that good, but he looks really solid. I think he's getting back to his old self, 30 years old, 2-time All-Star. I mean, he's just a really... there's a good amount of risk here if you're going to pay him decent money, but the upside is there because he can create his own shot. We saw it last night, whether it be step backs, crossovers, spin move to the basket. He's also a very active defender. He's going to get out in passing lanes. He's going to pick your pocket on the handle. He's going to get steals. He might get some blocks here and there, and he's just a really high upside guy because of the All-Star appearances, because of what he used to be. But put up, I believe, 23 points last night, was really solid at creating his own own shot and drawing fouls, which is a good skill set to have. So I think a team will pay him at least $10 million. I think they could offer him 15. It might be a one-year deal just because teams are concerned about injuries. But Victor Oladipo looks like he's getting back to himself, and I really like the idea of him on the Mavs. They need defenders, and I think getting a really good wing defender who can also score next to Luka would be really a really good fit. I think there's a good chance they lose one of either Dinwiddie if they end up moving him, or Jalen Brunson. I don't know if they'll keep them both just because it's tough to have 3 point guards. So if they end up losing one of them, Oladipo can shift to the 3 and the other point guard can kind of start in the 2 spot. So I think they could run that 3-guard set. Oladipo can play the 2 or the 3. So I think he has high potential, and this is a risk a lot of teams should think about taking. At number 8, I have point guard Jalen Brunson, restricted free agent, made himself a lot of money in this year's playoffs. The first round he did against Utah, he was a monster. He was just so aggressive, and he was lighting up the Jazz. Like, there were multiple 30-point games, and as a lead option, he looked really solid, which was surprising. A lot of people didn't think Brunson had that in his game, but over the course of the season, not bad numbers either. 16, 4, and 5, pretty good as a very quality starter. High-level starter is what I have him pinned as. 37% from 3, 50% from the field. Very efficient scorer. Only 26 years old. He's just entering his prime right now. He's going to continue to get better a little bit, I think. And I think he's a guy that will get a very good offer. I'm thinking 20 to 25 million a year he's going to get offered because of how well he's played in the playoffs, especially one of those teams with a lot of money that are kind of younger, not ideal destinations most of the time are thought of as. I think those are really interesting fits, whether it be the Pacers, maybe Detroit, but I have him pinned here with the New York Knicks. They've needed a very good starter at point guard for a long time. I don't know if Derrick Rose is going to be there for the long term. Quickly feels like more of a shooting guard than anything, so I think they should go after Brunson. I think it'd be a good fit there next to RJ because he's efficient, he doesn't turn the ball over, he plays defense, and he's a good playmaker. So I just feel like he fits well in Tibbs' system and fills a need for New York. At number 7, I have guard, whether he's a point guard or a shooting guard, he can play both. Anfernee Simons, Ant, out of the Portland Trailblazers, averaging 17 points per game this year. When Dame was gone, I believe he was putting up well over 20. It just felt like he was such a good scorer at times. 3 rebounds, 4 assists on 44, 41, 89 splits. 41% from 3, I think that can stay. 23 years old, very young, out of IMG Academy. I think he took some time to develop because he didn't really go to college. He came in the league really young, so I think he's on an upward trajectory right now that might keep going up. So I think he's a guy worth investing in. $20 million a year, I think he might get. Maybe it's more like 15, but I think at least one team will throw a 20-piece at him. And will the Blazers match it? I don't know. I don't know if they'll match it. I think they could, but with their kind of lofty aspirations to compete with Dame right now, I don't know if they necessarily match a level that good. But high volume shooter, he's going to be able to score the basketball. Feels like a future 20-point per game guy. Feels like he has all-star potential. When Dame went down, he was one of the best 3-point shooters in the league as well, shooting them at a very high volume. I think the Pacers are a good fit because they have Tyrese Halliburton, kind of a pass-first playmaking guard. I think adding a scoring guard, a shooter next to him, it would really set them up well for the future. They'd have 2 guards to build around. They'd also have Chris Duarte, who they could play at the 3, and I think that would really help their rebuild, and he'd be a great fit on their team. At number 6, I have forward Miles Bridges out of the Hornets right now. He can play the small forward, he can play the power forward, he can play both. Super athletic, 20 points per game this year, easily the best year of his career. Still, I think the shooting splits need to go up a little bit. 33% from 3 isn't going to surprise anybody. But he needs to be a little better shooting-wise, but was almost an all-star this year. Like, there was some legit Miles Bridges all-star talk this year. Only 24 years old, super athletic. He's throwing down highlight dunks left and right. Athletic finisher as well as a slasher. He's going to cut and he's going to score off of that. He can catch lobs. He can create on his own now a little bit. And I think he's a near all-star. Where I don't think he's quite an all-star player right now, but he's at least a near all-star. The biggest thing I'd say against Miles Bridges is that I think he needs a good initiator next to him, a guy that can help him create a little bit just because he's not the best at getting his own shot. He needs a little help there, which I think LaMelo Ball really helped him blossom there because he's such a good playmaker. But I think they try to offer him somewhere around 15, I think, last year before the season started. He didn't take it, and he made himself a bag. He's going to get $25 million. He might get a max. I don't think they'll quite offer him that, but I think they'll offer him a lot, and he's going to get it. So I think his best fit is staying with the Hornets, just because he's really good with a good passer initiator like that. We could also see him with guys like with Halliburton in Indiana would be interesting. With Lonzo Ball in Chicago could be an interesting fit as well. Maybe with Cade in Detroit. There are some options here, but I think his best fit is staying with LaMelo in Charlotte. At number 5, I have center DeAndre Ayton, and I slotted him above Miles Bridges just because of his playoff pedigree. He's been there. He's done that. He's been a productive player in the NBA Finals. He was really good last year, putting himself in really good company with his scoring, his rebounding, and his efficiency. 17 points, 10 rebounds, and 1 assist per game this year on 63% from the field, which is very good, and 75% from the free throw line, which is just about average. 37% from 3 as well, which is just about average, but that's on pretty low volume. I don't think he's ever going to be like a real floor spacer like that. Only 24 years old, he's young, he's a restricted free agent, double-double machine, just feels like he stacks up double-doubles left and right, and those can be 20 and 12 point like double-doubles. I think they're a little higher than guys like Drummond, guys like Nurkic. He just puts up a little better scoring numbers than them, and he can rebound real well. He can hit in the mid-range sometimes, is really good as a face-up center, but also can place him back to the basket. He's not quite an all-star right now, but he's a near all-star, and if you get him on a contending team, I think he might get some all-star votes. I think he's going to get the max contract, and I don't think the Blazers will match it. I don't think the Suns will match it. I just don't. They didn't want to pay him the max before the season, which he wanted, and he had another really good year. So I think at least 1 or 2 teams will offer him the max, and I just don't think the Suns will match. I think the Pistons is a really good fit. Beef Stew's cool, but DeAndre Ayton is obviously a better center. So I think getting Ayton there, a young center to build around with Cade Cunningham, I think a Cunningham-Ayton pick and roll would be really nice, and it would be really cool to see, and this would help accelerate the Pistons rebuild. At number 4, we have the kind of, all-star level guys now, certified guys, no more of the young guys now. These are more experienced veterans, guys that we know very well. James Harden, 22 points per game this year, 8 rebounds, 10 assists. The baseline numbers are still really good, but you can tell watching his game, he's just not quite the same. 33 years old. 41, 33, 88 splits. The shooting number is very much down. I get he's a volume shooter, but 33% from 3, I just don't like it. I classified him as a declining superstar is what I think of. So he's probably going to demand a lot of money. But I don't think he's an all-star right now. I just don't think the way he played in Philadelphia, he's an all-star level player. He's a really good passer. He's a really good scorer. But the scoring efficiency is down. The confidence just feels down. He's going to get his assists, but the points just aren't what they used to be. And for me, I don't think he should get a max. Maybe Philadelphia offers it to him. Maybe he gets the max from them. But I think what would make more sense would be kind of like the contract Chris Paul's on right now, which is about $30 million a year. I think makes more sense if you're going to give Harden this kind of money. I think he should stay with the Sixers. I don't really envision another team that's a great fit for him. And I think him and Embiid have a lot of potential. Hopefully he looks better next year. But right now I can't put him any higher because of what I saw from him in the playoffs. At number 3, I have point guard Kyrie Irving. A lot of you might be like, oh, wow, how could you put him above Harden? I know he's unreliable, and I even labeled him uncontrollable player. That's what I think he is. 30 years old, 3 years younger than Harden. But when he played this year, he was still really good. Like Kyrie, I know he's hard to predict, whatever, but when he plays, he is phenomenal. 27 points per game, 4 rebounds, 6 assists on 47, 42, 92. Phenomenal splits. Almost hit that 50, 40, 90 number. That club that's very elusive. Not a lot of people can hit that, but shoots really well from 3 at a pretty good volume volume, can get to the line and he's going to make them, can take you up one-on-one, has one of the best handles I've ever seen. And I think he's an all-NBA level player. I think if he plays a full season, he'd make one of the all-NBA teams. I still believe he's that quality of a player. And I think he's going to get a max contract. I know it's hard because, he's so hard to predict, whatever. But I just believe that he's worth a max contract if you think he's going to play. And I don't think you're going to get him for less than that. I don't think he's going to settle for less than a max. I think that's just one of the things with Kyrie. You have to accept that that's what it's going to be. He's currently with the Nets, and while I think he'll probably stay there, I honestly like his fit with the Clippers a little better. It's a rumor that's been floating around that they have interest in him, and maybe it'll happen. I don't think it will. I think him staying with KD in Brooklyn is the most likely, but a big three of Kyrie, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard, I really like that idea. It'd have to be some sort of sign-in trade. And maybe, they give up a bunch of pieces and picks. I don't think they have a ton of picks because of the Paul George deal. But I think Kyrie Irving would be a great fit in LA if they could figure out how to do that. And number 2, I have shooting guard Bradley Beal. Is just more reliable than Kyrie. Is a little injury prone, especially lately. But he's younger, 29 years old. He put up 23 points per game, 5 rebounds, 7 assists on 45, 30, 83. The worst year of his career before he went down with injuries by a pretty decent margin, I'd say. 30% from 3 is so uncharacteristic for Bradley Beal, but I think he'll bounce back. He's a natural scorer. He's a primary option on most teams in the NBA. He can get himself to a cool 30 points real easily, but the injuries are a little concerning, but he's still an all-star level player. He's going to be a great scorer on whatever team he goes to, and I think he's still an all-star level player pretty easily. He's going to get a max contract, as he should, whether it be from the Wizards, who can offer him like a super max. He might stay and take that, but I've seen a couple teams, kind of floated out there, whether it be the Grizzlies or the Cavs, which I think is the best fit. I think fitting him next to Darius Garland, as well as sending Sexton back to Washington, would be kind of a win-win for both sides, because the Wizards just can't compete right now. So getting another young player that can fit on the team would be interesting in Sexton. And Bradley Beal here going to Cleveland. I just love his fit on the team. They have a lot of defense. They need a little more scoring and shooting, and Beal can do that. Would really propel them to a competitive team in the Eastern Conference, a contender for the finals. And at number 1, I have shooting guard Zach LaVine, currently of the Chicago Bulls. Just feels like the best player in this class. I know Kyrie is really solid, and if you can believe he's going to play the whole season, I think he's probably the best and most talented player. But I just can't believe that. He doesn't have quite as many injuries as a guy like Bradley Beal, so that propels him above him as well. And he's just really, really good, honestly. 24 points per game, 5 and 5, as well as 39% from 3 on a very high volume. He's a very good three-point shooter. We've seen him in the three-point contest doing a very good job there. And, he's super athletic, going to be throwing down dunks and uses that to his advantage to score as well. He's going to be the primary or secondary offensive option on pretty much any team he goes to. And right now, he's an all-star level player. You could say he's an all-NBA level player. I think he's very close, but probably not quite there right now, but he's going to be an all-star pretty much wherever he goes. He's going to get the max deal. He's on the Bulls right now. It sounds more and more likely like he's going to leave them this summer, which kind of sucks because they built the whole team around him. But the Blazers, I think, are the best fit. A team that is looking to compete right now. They moved McCollum. I think Zach LaVine next to Damian Lillard would be a great fit. 2 of the better shooting players in the league, as well as the athleticism next to the shooting of Dame, I think would be really, really solid. But that is my top 20. I hope you enjoyed the video. That is going to be it for me today. If you did, think about subscribing, think about liking, trying to hit 1K really soon. So thanks for watching. Again, I hope you liked the video. But that is going to be it for me today. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Peace.